Вітаю всіх, шановні колеги. Вже 6 година, тому ми будемо розпочинати. Мене звуть Анастасія Тичук, я старша викладачка та методистка школи Green Country та TalkEn.Cloud Academy. Вітаю всіх на третьому вебінарі. Сьогодні ми поговоримо з вами про Reflective Thinking, але перш ніж ми розпочнемо, я хочу обговорити з вами декілька організаційних питань. Отже, розпочнемо. Я хочу поділитися з вами інформацією про TalkEn.Cloud. Саме завдяки тій академії, завдяки цій платформі, ми зараз з вами зустрілись тут, щоб послухати цей вебінар. Отже, що таке TalkEn.Cloud? TalkEn.Cloud – це бібліотека інтерактивних підручників, а також система менеджменту навчального процесу. TalkEn.Cloud також має свій тренінговий центр для навчання викладачів та бізнес-консалтингу. Отже, я пропоную розглянути складові TalkEn.Cloud детальніше. І ми розпочнемо з бібліотеки інтерактивних підручників, яка налічує приблизно 50 інтерактивних цифрових підручників для рівнів від Pre-1 до C1 для школярів та дорослих. Це означає, що теми наповнення та теми відрізняються та відповідають віковим категоріям студентів. А крім цифрових підручників, в бібліотеці також можна знайти Teacher's Guide. Це деталізовані плани занять до кожного підручника з посиланнями, рекомендаціями тощо. Також інтерактивні підручники надають можливість викладачеві відстежувати прогрес учнів у виконанні завдань. Тобто ми можемо побачити, скільки відсотків завдань було виконано та скільки з цих відсотків було виконано правильно. Також цифрові інтерактивні підручники надають можливість автоматично перевіряти тести. Тобто вам не потрібно перевіряти кожен тест, це робить платформа. Також можна прикріпити placement тест, це саме той тест, який ми використовуємо для визначення рівня. Окрім цифрових підручників та Teacher's Guide на платформі, викладачі також можуть знайти інтерактивні воркшити на різні теми. Наприклад, воркшит про Євробачення або про чемпіонат світу з футболу. Тобто на різні теми, які зараз актуальні та цікаві для учнів. А також викладачі можуть спробувати власноруч створити якийсь воркшит або завдання на платформі TalkEn.Cloud, використовуючи конструктор інтерактивних воркшитів. А тепер давайте поговоримо про TalkEn.Cloud як систему менеджменту навчального процесу LMS. Отже, ця система дозволяє викладачеві створювати профілі учнів, об'єднувати їх у групи або призначати індивідуальні заняття. Тобто це ваш простір, в якому ви працюєте, ви генеруєте власний розклад, створюєте групи, додаєте туди учнів, ви також можете відстежувати їх прогрес, додавати домашні завдання, виставляти оцінки, вести електронний журнал, прикріплювати тести та надавати зворотний зв'язок учням. А також через цю платформу дуже зручно та швидко можна перейти вже на інтерактивний підручник. Отже, тому якщо ви довгий час шукали платформу, на якій ви можете використовувати інтерактивні підручники та створювати власні воркшити, то я вам раджу спробувати платформу TalkEn.Cloud. А тепер перейдемо до організаційних питань. Що стосується нашого вебінару. Після закінчення цього вебінару всі учасники зможуть отримати сертифікат. Але основною умовою є те, що сертифікат є платним. Тому якщо ви хочете отримати сертифікат, ви маєте за нього заплатити. Як заплатити? Для цього потрібно знайти реквізити, які було надіслано вам на скриньку. заплатити за цими реквізитами та надіслати скріншот у відповідь, що ви сплатили. Після завершення вебінара протягом 24 годин вам буде надіслано на скриньку посилання на тест. Вам необхідно виконати тест та отримати 80% правильних відповідей. І після цього ви зможете отримати сертифікат. Отже, я думаю, що питань у вас вже немає, тому let's get started. The topic of today's webinar is reflective thinking. It means that we are going to define what reflective thinking is and how it influences the learning process of our students. I'm going to share with you how and when to introduce reflective thinking practice and what activities and strategies we can use to promote reflective thinking. So let's get started. But before that, I would like us to do one activity to think about our teaching experience. So I'm going to show 3 questions on my screen, and I will be answering them about myself. And what I want you to do is to answer them about yourself. So think about your teaching experience and share it in chat. So, the questions that you can see on my screen are the following. So, the first one is, what are you proud of? The second, what do you struggle with? And the third, what would you like to improve? So, you are welcome to write your answers in chat, and I will share my answers with you. So, as for me, I think that I'm proud of being able to understand my students' needs and choose the activities in accordance with their needs. So it means that I know how to plan my lesson, taking into considerations my students' needs and preferences. But I still struggle with understanding my students' emotions, especially when they work without cameras, because it might be difficult to tell whether they're in a good mood or bad mood, and it can significantly influence the flow of the lesson. So this is something that I'm still struggling with. And the things that I would like to improve is to learn how to work with students with dyslexia. This is in fact something that I'm currently working on. I'm trying to watch some webinars and read some literature on this topic in order to enhance my knowledge and improve my thinking skills. So share what you are proud of, what you struggle with, and what you would like to improve in chat. And I would like us to analyze these questions together. So the task that we've just completed, let's analyze it according to the checklist here. So, did this task activate your thinking skills and how? I think yes, it definitely did, because we were supposed to recall the moments from our teaching career. We are supposed to think about our teaching experience and choose the aspects that we are proud of, aspects that we struggle with, and something that we would like to improve. The next question here. Was this task aimed at making you self-reflect and self-evaluate yourself? It was, because we had to analyze our actions and we had to decide the things that we're doing correctly, something that we are proud of, and the things that we need to improve. So we had to talk about our strengths and our weaknesses. And the third task, how do you feel after this task? So this is something that I cannot answer for you. So please write your feelings in chat, but as for me, I feel confident and I feel motivated enough because I know I'm aware of my strengths and I'm aware of my weaknesses, and now I know what I can do to improve, what I should do to become better, to improve my teaching skills. So I feel motivated. What about you? How do you feel after this task? So this task, it was an example of a reflective thinking activity. So I decided to give it to you before we actually started talking about reflective thinking in order to give you some understanding of how it works in practice. So, and now I think that we're able to define reflective thinking. So, reflective thinking is a part of the thinking process that focuses on analyzing and drawing conclusions regarding our past experiences and actions. And when we talk about teaching context, about teaching English, it refers to encouraging our students to reflect upon the information they have, information they know, and the information they still need to obtain. And by doing it, we help our students to find these ways to reduce the gap between the information they know and the information they need to obtain through the learning process. So we help them to improve, we help them to reduce these gaps in the learning process. So, and to help you understand what reflective thinking is, like in a broader meaning, I would like to say that uh, reflection is actually a natural process. The need to reflect is in our nature, and it becomes quite obvious when we face the reality, especially when we work with students. And the reality is the following, that our students are naturally curious because they are learners. So, and as if you learn, you would like to learn more, you would like to know things. So, and if you work with young learners, with kids, so you'd agree that they are curious. So they are eager to know more. They tend to ask questions such as why and how and what and where, and they want to find out more. So it means that our role is to find a way to keep this curiosity in learning without squashing it and without killing students' creativity. We need to nurture this curiosity and we need to do it, to nurture it not only at the beginning of the activity, but at the end as well. So we need to keep our students interested in the task or curious throughout the whole learning process. And it means that we need to allow our students to go beyond the limits of their imagination, yeah? And we need to encourage them to use their critical thinking and ability to self-reflect. If they go beyond the limits of the task or beyond the requirements, they will have to think out of the box. They will have to use their critical thinking, and they'll have to analyze their actions, come up with a decision, with a solution by reflecting on their own action. So, as for the importance of reflective thinking, we shouldn't understate its importance, and I will explain why. So let's take a look at this quote. John Dewey used to say that we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflective on experience. And I would like you to write in chat whether you agree or disagree. And after that, I will explain why. So, I will show you one example, just to let you see, just to let you understand the correct answer, yeah, whether you agree or disagree, and what this quote really means. So let's take a look at the example. So this is Sophia, and this story is about her. So I will be reading this story, and you can read it yourself and just follow me. So in her typical school day, she bounces from one experience to the other. She begins the day with an engaging experience in her math class. Then she bounces to an English lesson where she learns new grammar. Later in the day, she bounces into a science lab where she wonders about the nature of chemical reactions. Each experience brings opportunities to build new knowledge, skills, and dispositions. She heads off to bed after her busy day of experiences, and she awakes with her mind like clean slates, ready for another day of experiences. This is how it ends. And do you think she actually remembers anything mm, from the previous day? Will she ever use this experience information that she gained yesterday? So was this experience meaningful? I think not, because she never had the chance to reflect. She never had the chance just to pause for a second, take a break, and think about her actions, think about the information she learned and how it can be useful, how she can apply it, and how this information relates to her real life. She never did it, so she never remembered, and this experience was not meaningful. And it leads us to the conclusion that experience alone doesn't necessarily lead to learning. It is the reflection that makes sense of the experience, and it makes the experience meaningful for us. So it means that when we stop, when we make a pause and we think about our day. So, so today I had a very busy day. I did this and that. I had a lot of classes and so on. And when you reflect on this day, when you think about what you achieved and what you didn't achieve, what went wrong, or not the way you planned it to be. So you analyze your actions and you plan your further actions. Yeah. So you reflect and your experience becomes meaningful because you process everything that you have learned, everything that you have gained. So, and now let's talk about the importance of reflection. Reflection is really important because it helps our students to become more resilient. So it strengthens their ability to recover from difficulties and toughness, and it teaches them how to come up with the decisions and solutions on their own. So, for instance, our students often hit the wall and they cannot move. But when we show them how to move, when we teach them how to reflect, they are able to reflect, they're able to analyze, and they're able to see what is not working. And as soon as they as soon as they realize the things that are not working, they will be able to find the solutions and they will become less dependent on us teachers. So the procedure is simple. Reflect, analyze, realize what's not working, find solution, become independent. Yeah, so it can apply to all the fields, not only to teaching or learning English. Yeah. So we need to reflect on our actions, and we need to analyze them and come up with the solution on our own. Otherwise, we will never get what's wrong. We will never be able to figure out why it's not working or what it's not working. The other thing is that reflection helps our students to strengthen their grit, which is the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. So if our students are able to reflect, it means that they can do it in the long term, so they can plan their actions in the long term, and this ongoing reflection makes us the long-term learners. And reflection also helps our students become autonomous learners, and it teaches them how to take responsibility for their learning. So they are responsible for their results, for their success. Okay. And now I suggest that we move on to when and why, and we will talk about when it is appropriate to use reflection and how we can introduce it. So, reflection can be introduced at different stages of the learning process: before the learning process takes place, during the learning process, and after the learning process. So let's look at different examples. I will even suggest some activities that you can use during each of these stages. So the first one here is reflection that takes place before a particular unit or a particular topic. So the main aim here is to find out what our students know. So it means we need to activate our students' knowledge, and we need to make them aware of what they know. So we need to share with students the knowledge that they have, because sometimes they are not aware of what they know. So activate their knowledge, ask them what they know about the topic, and find out what they don't know the topic, something that the knowledge that they lack, or the gaps that they need to cover. Yeah. The next one is a reflection that takes place before students start doing a particular task. For example, writing a paper or solving a problem or doing a project. So pausing here again provides an opening to assess our students' understanding, and it simultaneously reinforces the connection between students' learning and the practical use. For example, your students need to write a paper on something, yeah, or they need to write an article, but you need to let them understand how it is, why it is relevant, how they can use it later in their real life. So you can start by asking whether they have ever written any papers. Then you can move on to asking, what do people usually write in the paper, and what is the why do people write papers? Yeah, what kind of papers do people write, and so on. Say, you can also ask them whether they would write a paper in class, yeah, something like this. So connect the task with their life, make it meaningful. So try to ask them some questions in order to start them thinking, start them in order to let them reflect and on their real life, um, on the things that they do in everyday life. Okay, the next type of reflection takes place during something important. For example, a long-term project, yeah, or it can be an essay. So this precurrent reflection on their own or with a teacher becomes a way to become conscious about the learning process, and it helps students to provide better results, better outcomes. So, for example, your students need to write an essay. You can give them a checklist and ask them to follow this checklist while writing an essay. So they can refer to this checklist with some action points or with some questions in order to proofread, in order to check their essay whether they have included everything. Or you can give this checklist during the speaking activity or so on. So the next is the reflection that takes place after a task or a discussion of a new topic. So it allows students to assess their own understanding of the material. It gives them a chance to think about how the material might relate to the other topics that they studied and to their real life experience. Yeah, so this is kind of feedback that we provide after the task, but it is a personalized feedback, and it is a type of feedback when students reflect, when they analyze their actions, yeah, what they have achieved, what they haven't achieved, or how they coped with this task, whether they've learned everything or they still need to work on this task, and so on. And there is another type of reflection which takes place after a learning experience, not after a particular task or discussion. When you focus on the material, the focus here is on the learning experience itself, and the questions that you would ask would refer to how the students coped with the task, like what was easy or difficult for them. You can ask them questions about the most effective thing in helping them understand this task. Was it when the teacher restated the main points, or when the teacher used visuals, or when students did some hands-on work applying the ideas, or when they debated the topic? So ask them about the learning process. So what helps them to master this topic, to understand this topic better. Mhm. And let's talk about what you can do to encourage reflection in class. So let's look at some tips on my screen. So firstly, make sure that you give your students enough time to analyze all aspects of a question before answering. So you've asked your students a question, a reflective question, the ones that they need to answer. You want them to reflect, but you don't want them to answer immediately, otherwise it will be ineffective. So give them enough time to brainstorm, to analyze their actions, and only then let them answer. Okay. The next one, that it is important to constantly assess learning situations in order to find out what our students know, what they already know, their prior knowledge, what they need to know, but they don't, and what they learned from the whole experience. So if you give students this opportunity to find out what they know, what they don't know, and what they need to learn, it will be easier for you and for students to work and to achieve better outcomes. Okay, the next tip is it's important to provide support to students and encourage them to constantly analyze and evaluate their own conclusions. Also, give students tasks that they're likely to encounter in everyday life. So the tasks that are relevant, meaningful, and encourage them to reflect on how they choose to complete these tasks. Also, try to stimulate your students' ability to think reflectively by asking them questions that require logical reasoning and providing evidence. The questions that require them using their critical thinking, not just the answers yes or no. It's not reflection. They need to dig deeper. They need to think. They need to analyze. And of course, try to guide your students through the thinking process by providing various explanations, by providing some prompts or examples. Expose your students to different points of view by creating different intellectually diverse groups and encouraging group activities. So it's a peer reflection when students express their own opinion, when they share their experience in pairs or groups. And of course, encourage your students to write down their opinions on different topics and ask them to give valid and logical reasons and acknowledge opposite opinions. So you should teach them to respect each other's opinion, and they can express their counter arguments, yeah, if they disagree, but they need to respect everyone's opinion. And there are some things that we need to anticipate in order to make this reflection process effective. So let's look at the things that we need to anticipate. The first one is time. So reflection is effective when it is immediate and when it is related to the experience that students have just gained. So when it is relevant. But if the only time that students have for reflection is home learning time, then it is ineffective because students will not reflect at home. So if we let our students leave the classroom without time to reflect, we have missed this opportunity. We need to find time for reflection in class. We need to find time at the lesson, at the end of the lesson, or at the beginning of the lesson, but we need to reflect. We need to give the opportunity to students to reflect upon their experience, upon their learning. So the next thing, is modeling, something that we need to anticipate. So when do our students see adults, especially teachers, reflecting on their learning? If the answer is almost never, then how do we expect our students to reflect if they have never seen any example? Yeah, so we need to show it to our students. We need to demonstrate. We need to show some examples, and it means that we need to do it on our own. You should be the model of reflection. Yeah, so you should start the lesson with or finish the lesson with some reflective activity, and you should be the first to show your students how to do it. So give your example, reflect on your teaching skills or your teaching experience, or reflect on this day, and let your students follow your example. Next one, routines. So if we don't have routines for reflective practice, but we do have routines for putting our bags on a hook, or I don't know, writing the like the date in our notebook, do we truly value reflection? We need to come up with some routines for reflective practice if we want it to be effective. We need to uh, do it. We need to practice every time we have a lesson with our students. So we need to make it a routine. The next one is language. Our students benefit from learning a language that supports their reflective practice. So it would be a nice idea to use some reflective phrases in your language and to teach your students some reflective phrases like, I used to think this, that, but now I think this, or now I can do this or that. I have learned how to do something. I still need to improve something. So introduce these phrases to your students and encourage them to use these phrases like during your lesson, even when they disagree with your opinion. They can use the phrase, I used to think that pigs fly, but now I think that they don't fly, or something like this, yeah. The next one, interactions. If in our interactions with students, we send a message that we seek only correct answers and responses, that their feelings and emotions do not really matter, and the only thing that matters is the correct answer, is a or a completed task, student reflections will be shallow and false. So you need to show them that it is okay if your students express misunderstanding or if they express disagreement. So you need to let them express all the emotions. It's all right. It is something that they should do in order to reflect, in order to um, in order to make this reflection effective, they need to be honest with themselves and they need to express what they really think, and you need to value their opinion and their answers. And the last one is environment. So, do we have a space? Do your students have some space away from noise and distraction? So, can they reflect without? Do they have this place where they can reflect and where they won't be distracted? So, are there any calm places where individuals might be alone with their thought? This is something that you need to consider. I'm talking right now about offline classes, of course, but if we talk about online classes, you need to manage your class. If you have like groups, not individual classes, groups can be noisy. Yeah, so you need to calm down your students. You need to set up a proper atmosphere and then conduct this reflective activity. So, speaking of activities, we have discussed what reflective thinking is and why it is important, and we have discussed the things that we need to anticipate. And now, let's look at some examples of tasks. And let's discuss different strategies that you can use in class. So, the first task is really simple and you can prepare it within 1 minute, I guess. In fact, you don't actually need to prepare because you can use a template. So you simply give your students sentence starters to talk about something or write about something, and this activity is usually conducted at the end of the topic or lesson or unit or course. Yeah, so we ask our students to reflect upon their experience on the things they've learned something that they struggle with, and so on. So this is actually something that I asked you to do at the beginning of our lesson. So ask them to say what they have learned, what they can do, what they're good at, what they haven't managed to do, and so on. You can also ask them to share what they liked or disliked about the lesson. So I usually conduct this activity the last lesson of the course. So this is usually a fun lesson, and I ask them, so I give them some questions, and I ask them to discuss these questions in the breakout, in pairs. So it's kind of a peer reflection. So they analyze they analyze their progress, and they reflect on their learning experience, like the most interesting topic or something that they disliked, something that was difficult, something that was boring, and so on, something that they would like to improve, some recommendations, and so on. Okay, and now I would like to introduce some strategies. And the first strategy is called what, so what, and what now. This strategy is based on 3 questions. The first one would be thinking. It's a description of the experience itself. The second one, so what? At this stage, students need to give some details and express how they feel about their experience, the experience that they have gained. And now, what is at this stage of the lesson, students take some action and they plan their further action. So there are some questions that we can ask, some sample questions that we can ask at each stage of this reflection strategy. So the first stage, what? We can ask such questions as, what happened? What did you learn? What did you do? What did you expect from this task? What was different? What was your reaction? The next one. So what? The feelings, emotions. Yeah? So why does it matter? Why does this task matter? What are the consequences and meanings of your experience? How do you link your experience to your academic or professional or personal development? How are they related? Yeah. And the last stage, now what? And the questions are, what are you going to do as a result of your experience? How are you going to use this experience? What will you do differently? And how will you apply what you have learned? And I'm going to show you an example how to use this strategy in class. So let's look. The vocabulary topic is free time activities, and the grammar topic present simple. So students have learned some phrases how to talk about free time activities, and they've learned how to make sentences in present simple. So the lesson is over. And now it's time to conduct a reflective activity using this strategy. What? So what? What now? Let's look at some possible answers that we expect our students to share with you. Yeah, so what? I learned how to talk about different free time activities using present simple. I expected that I would use present simple after the first lesson, but I still make mistakes. The next step. So what? Expressing your feelings, your emotions. Is it so important and why is it useful? So this topic is useful because now I can use these phrases to talk about what I usually do in my free time. And what now? Your future actions. What are you going to do to improve? I still need to practice, and I'm going to try using the words in sentences and talking about my free time. I need to do more exercise to understand present simple better. So, if you want your students to conduct this activity, of course you need to give example. You cannot simply give them the questions to answer. They will not be able to understand what they ask to do. So give examples, simplify the questions, simplify the answers, yeah? And ask them to reflect on the topic, reflect on the unit, on the lesson. Okay. The next strategy is the model of reflection suggested by Gibbs. So let's look at this model. This model consists of 6 steps, and it is particularly useful for lower levels because it helps them to go from one step to another and express their feelings and reflect about their learning experience. So let's see how it works. So the first step here is description. So the students need to say what happened. The next one would be what were you thinking or feeling? Yeah, so about the task. The third step is evaluation, and here we expect our students to answer the question what was good or bad about the experience. The fourth step is analyzing your actions. What sense can you make of the situation? The fifth one is conclusion. What else could you have done? How could you have done it differently? And action plan. What would you do differently next time? So let me give you an example. So students have received a task. They need to work in groups and choose a topic and discuss the advantages and disadvantages of a topic. Then they have to listen to others and agree or disagree with their opinion. So the students have completed this task, they have discussed, and now you want to get some feedback and you want them to reflect. You want to get to do this reflective activity to show them how useful this task was, and you want to find out what was easy or difficult. So you can ask the following questions. Let me show you. So the first step, description. What topic did you choose and why? The students would answer, yeah, they would say the topic that they chose. Step 2, expressing your feelings. What did you feel while discussing it? For example, I felt that my partners disagreed, or I felt some approval because my partner and I had the same opinion. So I felt excited, something like this. Was this task easy or difficult? Why? And they need to say why, for example, it was difficult. What did you do well? What went wrong? They need to analyze their actions. Step 5, conclusion. Is there something that you didn't discuss? Perhaps there's something that you'd like to add? And what do you need to learn about this topic? You can conduct this reflection task in a written form. You don't need to ask your students to give you answers like in open class in front of others. They can simply fill in this form, yeah, with their responses, or you can give them this task, give them some time to answer these questions, and then put them in other pairs with other students and let them share, conduct this peer checking, peer reflection. And some more activities that you can use. with your students to activate their critical thinking and encourage reflection. The first activity is rose, thorn, and bud. It's the activity that can be used at the beginning of the lesson to ask your students to reflect upon their day. So something that they have achieved, the rose is something that they have achieved, their success. Thorn is the challenges that they have faced today, and potential is something that they would like to do, yeah, they're about to do. So I usually, well, it is one of the tasks that I usually do with my students, and it encourages them to think out of the box. It activates their thinking skills and allows them to reflect upon their day. It makes this process meaningful because they need to reflect upon their experience. The next one is time capsule. So this is one of the tasks that is that you can do like for long terms. Yeah, you can have your students write their expectations or write their goals and then put them into this time capsule. And at the end of the course, the students like break this time capsule or open it. They read their expectations, they read their goals, and they need to reflect upon them, whether they have achieved their goals, whether their expectations were met or not. The next one is reflection body. It's a peer reflection activity. It's a simple activity. You just put your students in pairs, give them some questions for reflection, and they need to do it in pairs and reflect, but you need to be careful and choose pairs carefully and teach your students to respect each other and ask them to be honest. So they need to value each other's opinion. Everyone's opinion is important and it can take place. So the next one is reflection score sheet. So it is the activity that you conduct with the student, and the procedure is simple. So you just give this score sheet to your students, and you have them circle the actions that they have completed during the lesson or during the course, during the unit, and you ask them to give a score, like how successful these tasks was, whether they completed this task or not, and what mark they can give to themselves. Yeah. The next one is word collage. So it's a task that allows your students to express their opinion and show others what they think. So you can create a word collage with the words that really matter, the words that reflect, that show who they really are, like love, friendship, or you can create a collage with some associations, yeah, or collage ask them to reflect on their previous learning experience and create some words like past simple, present simple, listening activities, a lot of speaking, difficult, easy, and so on, just to reflect on their learning experience. Next one, strengths and challenges. Ask your students to write what they're good at and the things that they need to work on. So their challenges. And after that, it would be a nice step to ask your students to think about the solutions. to the challenges. So what they can do to overcome these challenges, what actions they can take to improve, to become better, how they can work on these things, yeah, what they can do to improve their listening skills or to learn more words or to improve their speaking skills. And the last one here is mood scale, charts, and some tables. So it's a reflective activity that you can use at the beginning of the lesson or at the end of the lesson, but I usually use at the beginning of the lesson to ask students how they feel, what they can tell me about their day, so which picture describes their mood, and so on. And as soon as they choose a picture, they need to explain why. So, for example, picture 5, because it was a difficult day. I had to wake up early, had a lot of lessons, and I didn't prepare well for them. I failed the test and so on. So ask them to explain, ask them to reflect. If you want, you can ask the students to do this task in pairs or in open class. It depends on the number of students in your group and on how open they are. Yeah, if they're ready, if they're willing to share it with others or not. Okay, so this is it. This is everything that I wanted to share with you. I hope that it was a meaningful experience for you and you will use it, and you will use these reflective activities in your with your students at your lessons with your students, and perhaps you will even reflect, you will use these activities to reflect upon something on your own. So I decided to do one last task and let you reflect. So I will read the statements on my screen, and I want you to write in chat what's true for you or not. So I set up a culture of independent learning. Is it true for you or not? My question skills are quite good, and I use them to elicit answers from students. Is it true or not? I always allow students to find the answers to questions themselves. Number 4, I allow students to face the challenge on their own before I step in. Number 5, I provide students with enough time to self-reflect. Number 6, I try to encourage the curiosity in students. And number 7, I'm ready to work on my weak spots and improve. So I truly believe that everything is true for you. And I do hope that today's webinar was really useful. So that's it for today. Don't forget to complete the test if you want to get a certificate. Just a reminder that you need to get 80% correct answers to get this certificate. That's all for today. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.